Hello, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock with you here for the next 30 minutes as we count down to the UFC's return to Boston this Saturday night. On the program today, you are going to hear from a number of the competitors on the card, including Chael Sonnen and Massachusetts' own Joe Lauzon. John Ramdeen and Robin Black are here for this week's installment of 3 rounds, teeing up Saturday's card, plus a kick-ass edition of The Shift. And right now, we head to this week's newsmakers. Fox will launch their FS1 channel this Saturday, with the UFC kicking off their launch with a loaded show from Boston. Chael Sonnen and Shogun will meet in the night's 5-round main event feature, while Alistair Overeem looks to rebound from a terrible performance earlier this year. And John Ramdeen takes you on a tour of this Saturday night's fight card.
On August 17th, the UFC returns to Boston's TD Garden for the first time in almost 3 years as they present Fight Night 26. In the night's main event, former light heavyweight champion Shogun will look to rebound from a decision loss to title challenger Alexander Gustafsson when he takes on charismatic Oregon native Chael Sonnen in an intriguing matchup at 205 pounds. Armed with tenacious wrestling skills, Sonnen is sure to try and punch his way inside before finding a way to put the Pride veteran on his back. From there, expect Sonnen to unleash a furious attack from top position, constantly working to break the will of his dangerous opponent. For this fight camp, who has spent time working with world-class boxing coach Freddie Roach, now feels that his striking abilities have been taken to the next level. If Hua cannot stop the takedown, fans can anticipate an active guard from the Brazilian, as he is certain to try and exploit the jiu-jitsu deficiencies of his rival. In the co-feature, 2 of the heavyweight division's biggest men collide when former K1 World Grand Prix champion Alistair Overeem tangles with battle-tested Hawaiian Travis Brown in a matchup that should deliver KO of the night. The 6'7" Brown is coming off an exciting first-round KO victory over former title challenger Gabriel Gonzaga. Boasting a 14-1-1 record, Brown can assert his dominance and control the Dutch powerhouse. He could be in the running for a crack at the heavyweight strap. In his UFC debut in December of 2011, the Demolition Man faced off with former heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar in a highly anticipated showdown. It took less than half a round for the 33-year-old to destroy the monstrous Lesnar and instantly became a part of the title conversation. 2 top bantamweight fighters meet when former WEC champion Uriah Faber locks horns with skilled Brazilian Yuri Alcantara. Submission ace Mike Pyle squares off with the immortal Matt Brown. Former Cage Warriors champion Conor McGregor is looking for his 10th win in a row when he takes on the hard-hitting 21-year-old Hawaiian Max Holloway in a bout that will have fans on the edge of their seats. The action all goes down on August 17th in Boston, Massachusetts.
The main event this Saturday will see Chael Sonnen look for his first victory since January of last year after losses to Anderson Silva and John Jones back-to-back, with Shogun out to prove he can still be a force at 205 pounds, having lost 2 of his last 3. We check in with Chael Sonnen as he prepares for one last fight at 205 before making the return to middleweight after Saturday.
I will be going straight ahead, and he will be too. Not only is that how we fight, we both have our skills, and we're going to bring our skills to the main event. And you can't play around when you're in the main event. It's going to be a lot of action, whether it's positive or negative. I don't know. We're going to have to tune in and find out as well. But there will not be a feeling out. As soon as they say go, we will.
UFC lightweight and Massachusetts native Joe Lauzon returns to action this Saturday as the 11-time Fight Night bonus winner meets Michael Johnson. Lauzon is coming off a Fight of the Year contender at UFC 155 with a decision loss to Jim Miller, and spoke with me on the MMA Report this week about being Mr. Bonus inside of the UFC.
I love the system. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a sport, but it's entertainment as well. And someone that goes out there and has these very, very boring fights, so they go around and take people down and they hold them, and they're winning fights, but they're not winning any fans. And for me, it's you got to win both. You got to win the fans and the fight. If you're doing that, then you're going to get paid accordingly, and you're going to get bonuses, and, you know, the UFC is going to take care of you.
Ariel Helwani spoke to UFC President Dana White this week and reports that White would like to put together a fight between former light heavyweight champions Lyoto Machida and Vitor Belfort and put it on the UFC 167 card November the 16th in Las Vegas, but in a twist, have the fight at middleweight. Belfort has stated he only wants to fight at 185 pounds for the title, and Machida has yet to ever fight at that weight class. UFC featherweight champion Jose Aldo recently spoke to Guilherme Cruz of MMAfighting.com and states he has no issue with guys using testosterone replacement therapy, but maintains he and the Nova União gym are all clean. Aldo said he feels everyone uses steroids and doesn't believe that Hall of Famer Randy Couture was clean for his entire career. Aldo also stated that if one day he required TRT, he would utilize it if allowed. The World Series of Fighting promotion put on their 4th event this past weekend and was headlined by dual sports star Tyrone Spong, who improved his mixed martial arts record to 2-0 with a unanimous nod over Angel Dianda. The Blackzilian-trained fighter spoke about his goals in both MMA and kickboxing following his win this past Saturday night.
I don't have a goal just typically for MMA. I have a goal in combat sports to be one of the best combat sports athlete. You know, they compared me to the Bo Jackson of the combat sports. It's an honor to be compared to a great athlete like that, and I did my homework because at first I didn't know who Bo Jackson was, but now I know, and it's an honor.
The UFC will return to Manchester, England on October the 26th with Michael Bisping competing in his home country for the first time in 3 years when he meets fellow middleweight Mark Munoz in the main event. Both men are coming off victories in their last outings, and Munoz believes if this comes down to a striking match, it's going to be a bad night for the Count.
He was telling me he was going to beat me into depression. If I was depressed, that I'm going to go into more depression. But fact of the matter is, he has pillows for fists. He hasn't knocked anybody out, and he said he's going to knock me out. He hasn't knocked anybody out. It's going to be like a pillow fight when I fight him. You know, he's going to have pillows, and I'm going to have hammers. So who's going to win that fight? Plain and simple, I feel like I have what it takes to beat him and beat him dominantly.
It was in October of 2011 that we last saw reigning UFC bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz last compete. After 2 ACL surgeries on his knee, Cruz is sensing a light at the end of the tunnel with the hopes of an imminent return to the cage and prove why he's still the top bantamweight in the world.
I'm looking to be back beginning early next year in 14. And I can't give an exact date because the truth is I haven't been even cleared by the doctor. So I get so many tweets, so many questions from fans, you know, and it's very hard because I want to answer each individual question, each individual fan. It's the same answer every time, you know, and it's just, I've got to listen to my doctors, I've got to listen to my body, my knee, and when the doctor clears me, I can give a much better assessment of an exact date, which is what everybody wants to hear, and it's exact. This is when I'll be back.
And from one bantamweight champion to another, we look at this week's tweet of the week from The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, who sent out this photo of Ronda Rousey with the WWE Championship, announcing that Rousey will be a part of Fast 7, the second major action movie that Rousey will be taking part in, along with The Expendables in 2014. So now Ronda Rousey, 2 movies that she will be filming before she fights Miesha Tate at the end of December. Is this woman taking on too much at this point?
Well, I mean, for Ronda Rousey, she already beat Miesha Tate, so I think she expects that she has the formula. But I mean, this is a girl that understands that her fighting career isn't going to last forever, so why not make some bucks by not getting punched in the face? It makes sense to me.
Well, yourself and Robin Black, you are 2 emerging stars in the world of Canadian television. What are you going to be chatting about in 3 rounds?
We're talking about Fight Night 26. We'll tell you which fights will be the most exciting and who will emerge victorious in Boston.
There you go. Find out on the other side. It's John Ramdian and Robin Black coming back on Fight News Now. Welcome back to Fight News Now. It's John Pollock with you, and now we check in with John Ramdian and Robin Black with this week's edition of 3 Rounds, and this week it's a look ahead to the UFC's return to Boston on Saturday night for the launch on FS1.
Thanks, John. Coming up on August 17th, the UFC returns to Boston. And a great main event, Chael Sonnen taking on Shogun, the classic wrestler versus striker. First, Robin, let's get your take on the main event. Shogun, the criticism over the last number of years is that he's got to leave Curitiba to work on his wrestling abilities. Do you believe that this time is the time that he's done that?
Yeah, it's hard to say, man. If you look at his history, historically, how he competed, I mean, the guy has 18 knockouts and 21 wins, I believe. I mean, you know what his plan is. He wants to get in there and smash your face in. His wrestling has been his weakest aspect, and of course, Chael Sonnen is a monster of a wrestler. But let's examine this closely. He has been improving it. Shogun has. He's been improving his wrestling, been concentrating on it. Generally, we believe, you can't do that late against a guy who's been doing it his whole life. But let's look at Sonnen for a second. This guy's a monster, but he's also a broadcaster. He has a real estate company. He's run for office.
Spread thin is what you're saying.
He's spread thin. And this guy is a terror. But is he keeping it up? Is he training enough? Because, man, we know doing this job, this is a busy job. You got to be busy all the time. This dude's on Fox. So this isn't a bad time for Shogun to face a Sonnen.
Great main event. We got to talk about some of the other fights. Very intriguing matchups put together for the UFC on this card. This 170-pound matchup between Mike Pyle and Matt Brown. Matt Brown was supposed to take on Thiago Alves. Alves out, Mike Pyle in. I absolutely love this matchup. Two guys, competitive, well into their 30s now, and a big victory for each guy. They can definitely inch up that 170-pound ladder. I don't know if we're talking about title shots here, but with an impressive victory, who knows? They could insert themselves into that mix.
Matt Brown is one of these guys. In every single fight, you go, I don't think Matt Brown can do this. Jordan Mean was a young lion of a hellion that was going to come in here and tear him a new one. And he finished Jordan. He broke his orbital bone and really finished him. And it's the same thing here. But the difference is Pyle really is absolutely elite. He's one of these underappreciated guys. His skill level is off the charts. He's just a hell of a great fighter. And coming in on short notice to face him is a real challenge. I mean, these two guys both on 8 weeks' notice is a certain kind of fight. These guys now is a different kind of fight.
Mike Pyle, just so talented, really in the stand-up game, but specifically on the ground game, working at Syndicate and Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of his main training partners, Martin Kampman, and I think really one of the best you can have in the world because excellent in his wrestling, excellent with his striking, and one of the most underrated submission games, I think, in the welterweight division. So I think Mike Pyle served very, very well training with the guy with the caliber of Martin Kampman.
Hey, DC, Daniel Cormier trains with the heavyweight champion of the world, and both guys get better. Same thing here, two kind of underappreciated, super elite guys. Pyle can beat any 170-pounder on any given night. I'm going to go with Pyle in this fight, but every single time you say that about Matt Brown destroys another guy. And Matt Brown's one of these guys, hey man, he's not going to get a haircut for this. He ain't going to shave his chest for this. He's going to go in and kick the crap out of you. It's a great fight, man.
Matt Brown holds victories over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Mike Swick, and we mentioned Jordan Meehan. So a guy that you can't take lightly, and I know Mike Pyle isn't a guy to take anybody lightly. After that fight with Rory McDonald, where he lost, now currently on a 4 or 5 fight winning streak, a very talented guy. But what does he need to do? Is it as simple as get this fight down to the ground? Because of, I think, Matt Brown's 9 or 10 losses, 7 of them were by submission, and Mike Pyle has 16 submission victories in his resume.
A lot of the time we say, you certainly don't fight a fight on paper. Some of the times you do.
Yeah.
Every now and again, it's like, what do you do with Matt Brown? Well, I don't want to stand in there with him. I mean, we're going to have to, but you're not going to break his will. Jordan hurt him so badly to the body that 999 guys out of 100 don't recover from that. He did. So what are you going to hurt him on the feet? I mean, Pyle has some beautiful Muay Thai in the clinch. He's got some really nice elbows. He's dangerous on the feet. But if you're Pyle, yes, you want to get this guy to the ground. If that's where he's losing fights, let's take it there.
From 170 pounds down to 135 pounds, the former featherweight champion in the WEC, Uriah Faber, taking on Yuri Alcantara. An excellent matchup. I know not a lot of people know Alcantara, but he's a very talented guy. An amazing record when you look at it, 28-4 with 1 no contest. Really just an absolute world beater. Has a KO victory over Ricardo Lamas. That just shows you how dangerous he is. But for Uriah Faber, his last 4 or 5 losses, 2 to Mike Brown, who won the championship and was the champion when Faber lost to him. Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo, and Renan Barão. Uriah Faber knows how to compete against the best in the world.
Yeah, and I think, when we look back at this era, this sort of 2.0 era of the UFC, you got to identify Uriah Faber as the single greatest lighter weights fighter of all of them. Yes, he was a champion of the WEC. He's competed against the top guys, but on a skill level, on a sizzle level, on all these levels, he is one of the greats. He's mentioned it himself in this fight. This is one of those sort of no-win situations. Yeah, the guy's record is great, but nobody knows him.
Sure.
Super dangerous. This one is a lot closer than I think people realize. But, you know, if you were going to bet your house, man, Uriah Faber wins fights like this. And Uriah looked better in his last couple fights than he ever has. And that last fight against Jorgensen, he added a whole new element to mixing up his striking and his takedowns. I think Uriah Faber wins this. And unfortunately, he won't get the credit, if he does win this, you don't get the credit for this kind of win that you deserve for beating a guy of this caliber.
Uriah Faber, speed, agility, experience, and drive all on his side. And this is a guy, you know, that knows what it's like to be champion, wants desperately to get there once again. Do you think he can? 34 years of age. We see that he tries to improve as he brought in Dwayne Ludwig to work on his striking abilities. We know how good of a wrestler he is. We know that strength and conditioning is a main focus. But you see that a guy that's in his 30s willing to say, you know what, I know I'm the top dog here, but I don't know everything. Let's bring in some guys that can teach us some stuff.
You know, it's interesting at that age. This guy owns all kinds of real estate. He wrote a book of philosophy. He has, you know, supplement companies. He helps, you know, take wrestlers and amateur mixed martial artists and bring them up to another level. Manages, does all this kind of stuff. To see a guy like that still have the desperation to chase that dream of being a UFC champion, that is super legit. Because a guy like that doesn't need that anymore. He's rich, he's famous, he's got good-looking women chasing him. All the stuff that we all kind of strive for when we're young, he has it. But he desperately wants to be a UFC champion.
Before we move on, Alcantara, Robin, 28 victories, 24 by finish, 12 by submission, 12 by KO. This guy is legit, and I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a fight. And so will another bantamweight matchup as the former title challenger, Michael McDonald, takes on Brad One Punch Pickett. A fantastic matchup, and I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Pickett, with a great performance, a stoppage win over McDonald, gets that call to fight for the title.
Brad Pickett is probably, you know, we talk about Demetrius Johnson being one of the technically best fighters. Brad Pickett's getting there, man. We used to think of him as a guy with a crazy uppercut like he showed on Eve and, you know, great tough striking and a tough chin and puts his chin down and gives you exciting fights. But in his last couple fights, especially against Easton,
wrestling,
the full gamut, mixing up the skills, fighting like there isn't a number of different skills in MMA. It's just one big thing that all flows into each other. Looked unbelievable. Eddie Wineland fight. Wineland had a huge reach advantage. He looked amazing. This kid, McDonald, is the future, but I think Pickett's the present.
When we talk about Michael McDonald, 22 years of age, a valuable lesson in that fight with Henan Barrow. He ended up getting stopped, but how important is it that he went through a fight like that?
Yeah, it's great for him to face that and see what the next level is. He trains in a smaller camp without that super camp high-level training partners. If he loses this fight, you know, I'm sure he loves the coaches and the people around him, but it may be time to spend some time elsewhere as well. But don't underestimate this guy. He can turn the lights off with one punch, 22 years old, all kinds of power.
I don't know about one punch. The other guy's name is One Punch, but who knows? Michael McDonald, one of the most entertaining fighters, and the main event of UFC Fight Night 26, I believe is what it's called now, Sonnen versus Shogun. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Also, Alistair Overeem taking on Travis Brown, and it's all on free TV. I cannot wait.
Thank you very much, guys. For more with Ramdean and Robin Black, they are coming at you every Monday night at 7 Eastern here on Fight Network with the expanded 5 rounds, a full show breaking down all of the key stories and fights going on in mixed martial arts. We'll take a quick break, but we're coming back with more as Priscilla Carapan has you covered with the shift, and someone is getting fried in this week's viral video.
Look at him.
Welcome back to Fight News Now, and this Saturday night we're going to have the premiere of the very first Substance Cage Combat event that went down recently in Toronto and is headlined by Alex Ricci taking on Luis Felix with John Ramdean and Robin Black calling the action, and that kicks off Saturday night at 9 Eastern here on Fight Network. And before we get out of here, it's time for our weekly viral video, which I'm as excited as you are to see what has been dug up, and I understand the theme of this week's video is near-death experience. Enjoy.
Right, look at him. Jumping on the table. Jumping on the table.
And that is going to bring Fight News Now to a close. A big thanks to all of our guests, including Joe Lauzon. That full chat can be heard Thursday on the MMA Report with myself at FightNetwork.com and on iTunes. John Ramdeen and Robin Black are coming at you this Saturday night, 9 Eastern, with the call for Substance Cage Combat. And on behalf of Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, and the Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock, and enjoy the fights this weekend.
Chael Sonnen.